I wasn't expecting that.
Welcome to the show, Jamie Lawson. How's it going, Jamie?
Very well, thank you very much. How are you?
Yeah, very good. So, can we speak a little bit about that song? I wasn't expecting that. As I got you on.
Of course.
So, obviously, that was a huge success for you. You weren't expecting it, or were you?
No. I mean, I knew it was a different type of song for me. It started getting a reaction immediately, more so than other songs I'd written. I knew myself it was a different type of song for the other songs I'd written. But its journey has been very unusual in terms of, being picked up by an Irish radio station first in 2000, I want to say either 11 or 12, I'm not sure which. And they played it from YouTube, a live version I put on YouTube, and that eventually became the single in Ireland because I tried to re-record it, but it just didn't work. So I eventually had to go with this one take that I'd done of the song in a studio in Cornwall. And then having success over there and assuming that success would carry on everywhere else, and it didn't. And then a few years went past, and then Ed came along and kind of took me out with him on tour and things, and decided to start a record label and put that song out, and getting to travel the world with it and play some big TV shows and amazing gigs with it. And it certainly had its own little roller coaster ride,
What I love about that song is it's very much a journey of somebody's life, isn't it?
It's exactly that. That was the whole ambition of it. Can I write a life story in 3 minutes? And I failed because it's 3 minutes 20.
No, you did a good job, but everybody loves that song.
Well, I'm sure not everybody loves it, but it did pretty well. It won me a big award that I'm always very proud of, and I think the last I saw it had over 100 million streams, which is pretty crazy.
Was that the Ivor Novello award?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That was a special day.
Where did you get your award? Was that in London or?
Yeah, at some posh hotel. Presented to me by Craig David, of all people. So, that was it was about 4 years ago now, actually, just this week, actually, just gone. So that was a big day. It was a big day. It was a big validation of the work I put in, and of, keeping going all these years when I wasn't getting any success and thinking that I was good enough to do it. So I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, you should be. I mean, as I said, a great tune. I think it's one of those that will always get played. I do.
I hope so. That would be nice.
And as you were mentioning, of course, with what's happening at the moment, you said that music might have to change. As in, obviously, people can't do gigs at the moment, can they? So, do you think things will have to change?
Yes. I don't see any. I mean, I don't know how they'll change, but nobody's going to be gigging this year, as far as I can tell. So how do bands, how do musicians, how do writers make money? I have no idea. I mean, doing the live stream things is really interesting, but I don't make any money out of that, so there's no living there. I'm just giving that away. Maybe I should be charging. I know that you can get tip jars and things like that, but I haven't done that. I don't think it's the right thing to do at this point. So I don't know. I really don't know how it's going to work.
Music has changed a lot, hasn't it? Because, of course, years ago, artists used to get paid from record labels, but now it's totally down to the gigs, isn't it? Pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, one of the points about getting back to Lookout Mountain, which is what this EP is on, and our thinking behind it, myself and my manager, is that we can reach the fans more directly, and kind of hopefully cut out that middle section of the man, if you like. I never really saw it that way, but it means that we have this kind of more one-on-one interaction with our fan base, and hopefully that will keep us afloat a bit better. Maybe release 2 or 3 EPs a year and then tour after that, and do it that way. So that's kind of the plan, really. I intend to do another EP this year. And also my debut album, Last Night Stars, is being released on vinyl for the first time, which is quite cool. It means I'll have the full collection, which I'll be very proud of.
What can you tell us about your new 5-track EP?
Good question. What would you like to know specifically?
Well, a few things. I really like She Sings For Me. That seems to be a very good track.
Well, thanks very much. That's much appreciated. So It's the first kind of collection of songs that I've produced myself, and I've recorded here at home in my studio, at my house. For that reason, I think it kind of marks a bit of a departure for me in not working with a named producer of any kind, and somehow makes it a little more personal, I'd say. She Sings was written in London sometime last year with Ben Mark and Jamie Lawson in Soho. And it's really a song about music, I guess. It's a song about how music is always kind of there for you, whatever mood you're in, whether you're happy or sad. There's always a song that has been there before, who kind of understands how you feel. The she in She Sings is music.
You mentioned that you're recording your music at home now. Is that much better?
I don't know if it's much better. It's
convenient?
It's convenient, that's for sure, yeah. I can go and make the tea at any point and those sort of things. I mean, it's interesting. It's certainly, it's definitely my vision, 100%, which before I wouldn't ever say it was a compromise, but it was certainly, you feed off other people as you're working, whereas this time those decisions were all mine. And that's interesting. That brings on maybe a bit more pressure in some ways, but also it's quite liberating, and it stops me, or it makes me consider what it is I do best, I think. And I've stopped worrying about whether something might get played on the radio or not, which is interesting because then this song has actually been played on the radio a bit. So, that it's quite fascinating that it would work that way. Yeah, it's been a learning experience. I'm still learning a lot. I'm very grateful. I have a friend called Tim Ross, and he mixed the EP, and he's able to take very bad recordings and make them sound very good. So I'm very grateful to him.
No, it sounds great. And when you're doing the singer-songwriter process, I mean, how does it come to you? Does a song just come to you, or do you have to really think about it, sit down, or? That's
very dependent on the song itself, I think. I mean, if you take She Sings, that's a co-write. The main thing I remember about the day is we really struggled in the morning. Like, it was just nothing was happening whatsoever, and we went away for lunch and came back, and it seemed like the song was there. I don't actually remember writing it so much. It just seemed to appear out of nowhere. And that's how songs are sometimes. They just kind of show themselves.
Great. And what can you tell us about the other tracks on the EP? Are they similar vein to this song, or are they different?
I'd say that they certainly all fit together. It's a nice little collection of songs. They have. It's interesting. I think with an EP, you're allowed to put on a song that maybe is slightly left field, and I think I have that in and You Saved Me. So I feel like I'm able to push what I do a little bit as well. The song Closure has just been released, so that came out on Friday, just gone, and that seems to be getting a really good reaction. That's probably the most emotional song on the EP. And I wrote that with a guy called Jez Ashurst, and I think that turned out really well. And the recording you hear of that is what we did on the day. I didn't redo that. That's the only one that I didn't produce, actually. Jez produced that, whereas all the others I started here at home.
Is that sometimes hard, knowing when to stop in the studio?
It can be, yes. But generally, what that means is you haven't hit it. I think you kind of know when you've hit it. You can always tinker. I think I like songs that have a lot of space in them, so I generally don't tend to overfill if I can help it. Perhaps She Sings is a bad example of that, because it's actually quite a full song with a string section and all, and I was originally going to do all 5 songs with strings and changed my mind on that, but it can be, especially as well being at home, and you can go to the studio at any point and you can tinker away to your heart's content, and you're not worried about money because there's no kind of clock ticking and those sort of things. So it can be a bit difficult, but I think now, having made 5 albums and worked with many different producers, I think I know when to stop.
Do you sometimes have to get somebody else to listen to your songs?
I will always. I say that. I mean, with Tim, who mixed the record, he's probably the person I'll go back and forth the most. And he might change sounds and use mine as references in terms of trying to get something a bit cooler or something that I may not quite have right. So yeah, we go back and forth quite a bit. But we have a good working relationship in that way that it can be, that's a very easy thing to do.
And I suppose you've been able to do this during lockdown, haven't you?
Well, no.
Oh.
I haven't, no. I mean, this EP was recorded mainly all last year because I knew I was having some time off this year. And that time off just happened to fall when everyone else had some time off, which is quite interesting. Everyone else is also, in this same position of being stuck at home, and I'd already planned it. So I haven't been overly creative in this period. I've written one song, and I've been working on videos, like home videos for the songs, because obviously I couldn't make a video for anything. So I've done my own lyric videos, and I'm creating my own kind of lockdown versions of songs with the band and stuff. And I've just put one up last night of Closure, actually, with Jez, who I wrote it with. And that's been quite enjoyable. So I've been learning my video making skills, getting better now as well.
Yeah, it's good to take some positives out of the situation, isn't it, really?
I think you have to. I mean, it's quite difficult for musicians, I'd say. It's going to be a very tough time for the next year or more, especially touring-wise. How we make our money is going to be quite restricted, and a lot of questions have to be asked of streaming services, etc., about how they pay artists and writers. So I'm not overly sure what's going to happen, but yeah, I've been doing these live stream gigs every Monday night on Instagram, and that's been a really great way of keeping in touch with those people that listen to my music, and they're able to kind of join my live stream and request a song, and I get to actually, virtually face-to-face talk to people and see how they're doing, and that's been a really nice thing.
So how many times does I wasn't expecting that get requested?
Probably most weeks, but so far people have known that it was been and haven't requested for it. I mean, I have a good fan base. A few people have thrown in a couple from the first album or whatever, and it's a bit like, oh, I'm not sure I know that, and I'm having to look lyrics up and things like that. So it's keeping me on my toes, that's for sure.
I suppose with the song I just mentioned, is that usually the song you finish your gig with, normally?
No, I usually finish it on Ahead of Myself, which is off the same album, because that's a good song to get everyone involved in and kind of leave the room on. But it's certainly towards the very end of the show. Yeah. I do it as late as possible, but I wouldn't like to leave on that. It's a bit of although I consider it a happy song, it's not the note I want to leave a show on.
Great. Well, it's been lovely to speak to you, Jamie. And
you too.